Yeah, I need to get myself a haircut because it's oh man. So I'm waiting to be unloaded right now, and then so I can go to my next stop and get it sorted. And yeah, so I had the chance to see the address from Trump in the UN. It's actually pretty funny. So he touched on a lot of stuff. He talked about the progress that US is making, as well as other stuff. And I gotta say, it's not bad. It's not bad. It was kind of funny. There was some stuff that happened. The escalator, the he was supposed to work on and stuff like that, right? That didn't work for some reason. I mean, there's some conspiracy that some petty employee just stopped it to I guess quote unquote make Trump I don't know, like as out of protest because of the funding cut to the UN, something like that. But whatever it is. So he also talked about this, which I thought was hilarious. And yeah, the speech wasn't bad, right? Was it like Obama smooth? No. Listen, if Trump was as smooth as Obama, yeah, he would have been way too dangerous, man. Because I gotta give it to Obama. Obama's a smooth ass president, right? He know how to talk a good game. He know how to smooth. He got the swag, right? Obama got the pimp juice, and that's why people was funning with him. Like, oh my God, Obama, he's so smooth. He's this, right? So, yeah, Trump is not as smooth as Obama, right? So Obama can definitely like learn how to BS his way out of pretty much anything, right? Although his political um, power is actually like it's diminishing more and more, and therefore he doesn't have as much pull as he once had prior. So which is, hey, it happens, right? And but yeah, the address wasn't too bad. He talks about immigration and how, let's say, mass immigration is contributing to a lot of degrading factor that's happening in the Western world and Western civilization, which, like, I agree with him to a certain degree, right? But I think what's happening now, right? Let me pull that up real quick. This is what I think is happening nowadays, right? Because what we're having is because people try to make it about a race issue, people try to make it about an economic issue. What it's really happening is globalism versus nationalism, right? You have people that want their country to succeed, right? Especially in the Western world, they want their countries to succeed, and therefore they have to fight globalism, right? They have to fight the impact that globalism, people that really don't care about what's happening in their country, they just want to see the whole world as their little plaything and to enact policies regardless of borders. And in order for them to quell any sort of nationalism spirit, they use they use tactic, uh they use socialistic tactic, right? Because the criticism that has been towards the Western country is not without merit, right? Because the West has done a lot of dumb stuff. The West has done a lot of BS towards smaller nations because due to globalism, right? So when globalism was using the West as their tool of weapon, their weapon of choice to enact bad policies towards smaller nations, the people that used to live in the West that was not affected by it said anything. They didn't say anything, right? They weren't really, standing up against their government for meddling, and things that was happening in the global theater. They didn't say anything until the chicken came home to roost, right? Until so then when they started complaining about, like, because this is the thing that's wrong with empire. When you try to build empire, you tend to neglect what's happening at home. And for a very long time, the West, including the United States, the United States was their spearhead towards a lot of this globalism agenda. So, that when you think about, let's say, the time when Bush was in office, the 8 years, you have the Iraq war, the Afghanistan, and then when Obama took over, then you had like more conflict with you had the Arab Spring, right, which created like a whole lot of devastation in the West, in the Middle East. right? So part of that is our fault. Part of that is the fault of the Western powers that be, right? The globalist. So then they use the U.S. military, they use NATO, in order for them to enact policies all throughout the world, and without care of the consequences, without care of the blowback. And the people in those countries turned a blind eye because it wasn't affecting them. So then now with the blowback that is happening, what we have is, let's say, leftists, right? Because the whole leftist wasn't as deranged as they are now. Because liberals were against wars, right? Because hell, I used to be a liberal, right? We were against war. We were for freedom of speech. We were for a lot of these things that now now they have a double standard for these things. Now it all becomes about, like, you know, freaking not politics, but tribalism. It becomes very tribalistic because the liberals mindset that I grew up with was, hey, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I will fight for your right to say it, right? I may not agree with what you with your viewpoint, but we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna discuss it, right? So, and then that didn't start changing until when it started with Occupy Wall Street, right? So Occupy Wall Street was the, let's say, liberals and conservative coming together, right? They were coming together and to try to go against the global powers that be, right? We were still against war. We were still against a whole lot of stuff. And then they're like, let's put this black guy in power. So then, boom. So Obama won the election, right? And then, so all of a sudden, the people that was like against war, the people that was pushing against Bush for all this invasion that was happening in the Middle East, all of a sudden, they were quiet when Obama started doing it, right? Anything from Syria to Libya to let's say when he started like droning a whole bunch of countries in Africa and the Middle East and all that stuff, and then people were just quiet. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? Because so then now, and they started pushing certain stuff that was like contradictory to what I believe in. Because I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, and I don't remember this whole racism thing was being pushed so hard on people, right? Like when two kids used to fight, whether you're black and white, my first thought wasn't like, oh, the white kid is racist. It was two kids fighting, and whoever get the best out of the equation, right? Because I grew up in that era where it's like racism was dying out, right? The whole race 24/7 focus on racism was not a thing. It was not a thing. And it started to become a thing as a way to divide and conquer people, right? They were like, the people are uniting. Let's throw racism in there. And then let's throw sexism in there. Like, it's all these far right or far left idea that was being used in order to divide and conquer. And it was like, that's when I started to like take a step back. I'm like, whoa, this is weird. And 2016, because so between like when you had the Arab Spring coming up to all the way down to, let's say, the 2016 election, I was not paying attention to politics because it became too divisive. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna take a step back. I stopped listening to Alex Jones. I stopped listening to mainstream media. I stopped listening to like anything from left to the right, whatever it was. I just take a step back because to me it was like, yo, I don't know what the hell to believe anymore, right? So I took a step back and start observing. I start paying more attention. So then now I'm like, okay, so who was lying to me about this, about that, about this, about that? And I start like, paying closer attention to these people to be like, okay, I don't, these people, they're not telling the truth. I can't believe them and all that stuff, right? And that's when I was pro-Obama at some point, right? And I'm like, you enact the same policy as Bush when it comes to, I think the NDAA, which was, it's like a Patriot Act 2.0, right? And I'm like, I can't support that, right? And then there was like other stuff that was happening. Let's say we want to talk about racism and how we care about black people. Your policy now brings slavery back to Libya. That was the blowback to against these people, right? So now these countries are devastated because of the policy, the globalistic agenda that you follow through. I can't side with this, right? Because I know how, let's say you have you have, let's say, the Clinton foundations and all these other people, how they continue to devastate Haiti, and I'm like, I can't support that. So then it's like all these little things. I start to step away from. I start to step away from this whole liberal, liberal camp, because to me they started to become a little bit more extreme, and I'm like, all right, no, I'm gonna just step back, right? Occupy Wall from Occupy Wall Street. I used to support Gaza and Palestine. I still do to a certain degree because I don't like Israel neither for what they're doing. I have plenty of criticism towards Israel, but the problem is it's not about what you believe in, right? Because people, the power that be, they don't care about where your belief system stem from, as long as they get to control that belief system, right? When, let's say, when they see people fighting against gay right, when they couldn't actually, like, conquer that cause, what they do, they infiltrate it and they conquer it from the inside. So when they see people uniting when it comes to Occupy Wall Street, they couldn't fight it outright. So what did they do? They infiltrated, right? They used the worst of these people, and they actually put them center stage. And then before you know, that's how the left become who they became today, right? All these freaking fringe ideas. Oh, men can be a woman, blah, blah, or a woman can be a man. It's like, that's stupid. It's not common sense. It's not what regular people believe in, right? So then they infiltrate these ideas and they make it worse. And I think now what is happening is those who still had this perception of the past, or how evil, how racist Republicans are, so then they still stuck to this idea. So that's why they cannot step away from the left. They cannot step away from the Democratic Party, because they still go into this. They still go into this, the old mentality of the conservative, or like the evangelist. Yeah, the evangelist, right? They still had the idea, like, these Republicans, they're like these far right Christians that just hate gay people. That's just this, that's just that. Some of them do, right? Some of them do. Some of them are just former liberals like myself. Some of them are just like, because the MAGA we see today, right, are consist of, let's say, people like the Ron Paul, right? Because I was a huge Ron Paul fan when he ran in 2012, right? I was hoping that he would actually get the qualification to actually become president. Dude, the guy was, Ron Paul was the man, bro, right? And then that didn't happen. They kind of like, they messed up the primary, stuff like that, against him, because they know this dude was just legit. He was against the Fed. He was against war. He was against a lot of, he had a lot of principles that Trump actually have, right? Minus the assholeness, right? Because Trump is an asshole. As much as I cannot defend that, as much as I like the guy, he is an asshole. But sometimes an asshole is what you need, right? So now MAGA that we have today consists of, let's say, former Rand Paul fan, libertarian. You have, of course, you do have some far right in there, like the Nick Fuentes, and then you have like you have far right like Nick Fuentes. You have the right wing, like let's say Candace Owen, Charlie Kirk, Crowder, and then who else? These people, right? They're like right wing. And then you have like center right, like who would be like a center right, right? Okay, I would consider myself a center right. I think Dave Chappelle is center right, or at least center left, either center left or center right. All right, so you do have like these people, like a mixed bag. You have the Tulsi Gabbard, and these used to be liberals, right? The Joe Rogan and all that stuff, right? So these people used to be liberal, and then you also have like the Tim Pools and all that stuff, right? So this is what, let's say, the MAGA movement is consist of now, right? And then Now, who do you have on the left? The left is pretty much Bernie Sanders up to the left, right? Anything that is on the right of Bernie Sanders is considered to be right, right? Anything that's from Bernie Sanders to the left is considered a leftist. So that's why it's so difficult to continue to side with people that no longer believe in, you know, having a discussion anymore. They want to shut you down. As a matter of fact, you see what they will result to in order to shut you down. They will pick up a gun and pew pew your ass because they don't like what you're saying. And then they try to label you all when the label doesn't work anymore, when they label you all type of name, you know, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, you name it, right? Whenever these labels don't work anymore, and then the cancel culture no longer work, so then now they have no problem trying to terrorize you. They advocate for it for a very long time. They keep advocating for it, and then now when bad things happen to you, then they cheer for it. They get on the internet and they actually celebrate it, right? And then now those who still have that mindset like, oh, Republicans are evil or conservatives are evil, then they can't really comprehend, you know, the people that they're siding with are evil. So that's why they make up excuses for them. That's why they try to come up with all these, you know, they have history. Well, in history, you know, this is what these people used to do to us, blah, 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 blah. It's like, bro, is your life this boring that you constantly have to live in the past? You have to live through history because you refuse to see what's happening right now? Because history can be manipulated in order for you to see, like, for example, right, manipulation of history. They say things like, the party switch, in order for them to kind of dismiss the fact that a lot of these bad stuff that used to happen to black people were done by Democrat. So they say things like, well, the party switched, the party became blah blah blah, right? So the Ku Klux Klans, you know, that used to be Democrat, the slave owners that used to be Democrats, all of a sudden now they're like, oh, the party switched, like, you know, magically, like, sprinkle some, you know, magic, it switched. So we can see that history can be manipulated, right? But what we do have to go on is the behavior of the people that's telling you who you should hate, right? So if they're telling me that you're not supposed to talk to these people, but why? Because I'm too stupid to make up my own mind? I'm supposed to cut off my family because they don't have the same belief system that I do? So then now you start seeing the behavior, the cultish behavior, and then when you start asking questions, and then all of a sudden, they have a problem with that. And then you see people, like, you know, like, if you have to lie, right, to get your point across, if you have to lie to make me hate the people that you don't like, then there's a problem, right? It's very cultish behavior, and I cannot side with people that just like that are celebrating the death of a man or are making excuses for the death of a man that they didn't do nothing to them, right? A family man, someone that just wanted to have a discussion, someone that was not a criminal, someone that was not out here robbing people or, you know, like, you know, assaulting people and all that stuff, right? All he was doing is having a conversation and be like, okay, why do you think the way that you think? Let's talk about it. And they expect me to hate this person. Now, they just continue to do things, and then when it turns out wrong, and then now they try to, like, put it this way, right? Why would I believe you when you lie about COVID? Why would I believe you when you lie about, let's say, the invasion of the Middle East? Why would I believe you when you tell me this person is racist and it turns out you were wrong? This person is sexist when you turn out you are wrong. This person is this. This person is a criminal when you turn out you are wrong. This person is not a criminal and then you turn out you are wrong. It's like, and that's the thing, though, like, you lost all credibility the more you keep bullshitting people over and over again. You expect people to side with you. You keep losing your credibility when you keep siding with evil. And then what you believe, what you advocate that is not evil, turn out to be like, no, that's actually the right thing to do, right? Doing the right thing and doing the doing the right thing, doing what's right and doing what's easy is not always. No, that's not what I'm saying, right? Okay, doing the right thing is not always easy, right? For instance, when you have to, let's say, enforce the border, right? You have to enforce immigration, right? Is it the right thing to do? Yes. Is it the easiest thing to do? No, right? Because there are certain things that's gonna happen. Like there's the humane side of you. It's not like the liberal side of you, right? The humane side of you be like, oh man, these people, they just wanna have like a, a place where they can come through, they can work because their country's devastated and all that stuff, right? So then therefore they want to come through to have a better life. From an immigrant perspective, I understand that part, right? But there's also, from a law perspective, of someone who have every right to guard their border, every right to actually have a say on who comes to their country and who doesn't. That is the right thing to do, right? You have the right of, who comes to your country, right? Or you have the right to who comes to your house. If someone, let's say, knock on your door, be like, excuse me, sir, I'm homeless. Is it okay if I actually, stay at your house and all that stuff, blah, 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 right? I can do this, I can do that, I can work. And you might feel bad for that person. You might want to be able to actually help that person, want that person to actually get on their feet. But at the end of the day, if it's actually going to, like inconvenience you, or he's gonna mess up your household dynamic, you also have every right to say no, right? Coming to this country is not a right, it's a privilege. And as an immigrant, I understand that, because as much as a lot of immigrants are so proud of their country, they're very proud of their country, they will wave that flag as often as they can, right, to show how proud they are of their country. But that pride is not built on anything that actually having to do with making their country back home better, right? Because if they were, they would have stopped supporting globalistic agenda, right? Let's say they would have stopped supporting things like the USAID. These organizations, these non-government entity are the reason why a lot of these countries are in the state that they are today. If, let's say, USAID is the reason why, what they do, okay, like organizations like USAID, right, and these NGOs, what do they do to these third world countries? They go over there, right? They bribe corrupt officials to actually fund the things that they want to pass without any sort of regard towards the local population. Let's say you have like things like the Clinton Foundations, right? It's an NGO. So then they bypass government official and they actually like nitpick like the corrupt one, the one that they can manipulate, and then to actually further their agenda, to take advantage of the country's resources, to actually make sure that these, their friends and their other globalistic people to take advantage of this country's resources. Meanwhile, the people that actually elect those who could actually do something about their situation, they either get killed in the process, they get like, coup, all this other stuff, right? So then why on earth would I while I'm over here, will I support organizations or politicians in here who support those organizations that's going to make my country worse? So my support for Trump is because of the fact that he was an outsider, because of the fact that he was not a globalist. It's because of the fact that, like, this dude came out of nowhere, right? He wasn't a Democrat or Republican. Actually, no way. He was a Democrat donor. Actually, no, he used to donate to both parties, right? So this dude, an outsider, a businessman, right? And then he came through. His ideas was sound. His first term, I didn't vote for him. So I'm like, you know what? Let me take a step back to see what's going on, because I didn't trust him. And then his first year, I was like, okay, I see his effort, try to like, make sure there's no new war. Yeah, he would have like a little spat here and there with countries like that, but no full invasion, right? The last thing he tried to do with Iran, he just slapped them around a couple of times. But all right, cool. Now you cool? Now let's come to the negotiation table, right? Like, instead of like having like full-on invasion, or like, having like billions and billions of dollars upon foreign invasion, all that stuff, he didn't do none of that shit. So to me, I'm looking at it like, okay, so I understand that it's, you try to prioritize your country and you also encourage other countries to prioritize theirs. And then, so therefore, you are against globalism. Okay, I can rock with that. You try to find peace with a lot of these countries. You try to create deals. So he's going to say, okay, you give me something, I'm giving you something. So there's a fair exchange. There's a trade that's happening. So to me, I'm like, I can rock with that. I understand that part. So then, why would I not support this effort? Do I agree with everything that he said or that he does? Hell no, I don't. But for the core values, for the core things about that, what I believe in, I support him, right? And I think that's why a lot of people that used to be leftist at some point, that used to be liberal at some point, they see the choice to be like, okay, I can disagree with people, and at the end of the day, they'll be like, shake hand, be like, I don't agree with you and stuff like that, but we're gonna agree to disagree and then go about your way. Versus a group of people that wish ill upon you, that wish death upon you because you disagree with them. Why would I side with them? Why would I side with them? And that's why the leftists continue to bleed people over and over and over again, because they're showing their true color. They're showing who they actually are. They're showing how they are willing to resort to violence and then celebrate it when bad things happen. And then now when they have the backlash, the back blow of that, they want to play victim. It's like the way I categorize them is like when you have, like, let's say a toxic relationship, right? And then they're like, these people, let's say like the woman or the wife spent so long try to demonize the husband. Oh, he's a bad father. He's a deadbeat dad. He's a bad husband. He's abusive. He's this and he's that. And then as time goes on, people will see like, wait a minute. You are the toxic one. You are the one that keep lying about your ex-husband. You are the one that just keeps saying, you try to manipulate your kids against him. You are the piece of trash. You're a cunt. Right? And that's what's happening with the left now. And that's why they're losing their mind, because the propaganda is not landing anymore, right? They spent so long talking about like January 6th, January 6th, and then when you point out, be like, yo, you spent a whole summer rioting, dog. What are you talking about? Oh no, we were fighting for our right, but January 6th, January 6th, like, come on, dude. Like, and then now, so, and then you because you want to go back to keep trashing people you disagree with. And then, like, now when that no longer works, you resort to violence, and then you show your true color. You show your true color, who you are. Like, people, like regular people now be like, yo, you guys are racist. No, I can't side with this, man. I can't side with this. You guys are acting like terrorists. Like, you have like Hassan Piker. You have like all these other people that just like saying that, well, we're supposed to make their life uncomfortable. We're supposed to, like, exceed violence upon them. We're supposed to make them afraid of speaking their mind. Like, that's some violent shit right there. And then whenever, let's say, we defend ourselves, whatever, you play victim. It's not like, let's say, when you have a woman, right? They're just like, try to slap their, a man and all that shit, like, try to hate him and all that stuff. And the guy's like, yo, you gotta stop this shit. You better stop this shit. And then boom, the guy slapped him, to defend himself. All of a sudden, you a woman abuser. You're this. Call Rittenhouse. And it's like, yo, you guys are ridiculous. And the thing about, like, when you're calling somebody racist, when you're calling somebody sexist, when you're calling somebody all this ism, is that the word now loses its meaning, right? Whenever you disagree with someone, you call them a racist. You know what that does? The real racist get to hide behind that now, because no longer means anything, right? How the hell are you gonna compare, let's say, a guy like Charlie Kirk versus a true racist like Nick Fuentes? The only thing you end up doing is now try to make Nick Fuentes more credible, because Nick Fuentes will say something like, well, they call everybody racist, right? So then that's what happened when you just willy-nilly put a label upon someone, right? It's like the same thing as a woman that just cry, grape, that just cry sexual assault, and they, like, falsely accusing men. So then what tends to happen now, real victim of those action, now they're not being heard. That's what's happening with these things, with the racism, with the sexism, and all the other buzzword that you put. You actually, now these words are losing their meaning because you call anyone that disagree with you a racist. You call anyone that disagree with you a sexist or homophobic or transphobic and all that stuff. There's power in words, and when you overuse it, then therefore you lose meaning. Like when you call somebody a Nazi, what does that do nowadays? What exactly does that do? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything nowadays, right? All it end up doing is now people who are mentally ill, who actually believe in these things, now they feel justified to use violence against you. That's what happened. That's what happened to guys like Charlie Kirk, right? When he was, Merc, because some deranged leftist lunatic freaking loses his shit, and then now just freaking murk this guy. Same thing that happened with the attack that happened on ICE recently, right? You guys heard what happened with ICE agent, right? Some idiot, bought this, had this idea. I wonder where he get it from, right? So then now, in his mind, he believed that these people that he's shooting at were Gestapos. Funny enough that his shot didn't land, ended up killing 2 immigrants instead of, the ICE agent that he was trying to harm. No, he killed, he actually murked one immigrant that was in custody, and then 2 other got wounded and stuff like that, right? And then until they and then he actually murked himself when he was about to get caught, right? So these are these deranged lunatic that keep buying into these that keep buying into these deranged name calling and gaslighting, and then to them they believe they're actually fighting Nazism, right? And it's like, I'm from Haiti, by the way, thanks, appreciate it. And that's the thing though, like when you keep pushing these propaganda, when you keep pushing these things, so then now those people who are who are influenced by these rhetoric, who already have mental illness, and who believe that because their life is shit, right? When you look at people that's willing to commit violence against another person, you look at their lives, you're like, yo, your life is shit, right? And what they try to do is, because the thing about life, right? We all try to find what's the meaning of it. What is my purpose in life? And sometimes when you try to look for a purpose in life, and sometimes that purpose is very difficult to accomplish, right? Because the whole concept of cleaning your room, you're supposed to you first got to do for yourself. You first got to get your house in order for you to help out with your with your family, and then from family to community, and then from community to you extend out, right? So at first you have to get your house in order. But what I tend to see with people who have this concept of they're helping the world, what they try to do is they try to bypass the order that they need to make their life better, and they use the world as an excuse for them not to improve on their lives, right? Because I'm too busy to get my life together because I'm fighting for Palestine. I'm too busy to get my life together because I'm fighting for trans right. I'm too busy to get my life together because I'm fighting for immigrants, right? And that's the excuse that they use in order for them not to get their lives together. That's the excuse that they use in order for them not to seek out the help that they need for their personal life. So that's why they become this deranged lunatic. And trust me, I know that at some point when I just couldn't really get my life together, I had all these grand ideas about all these people, I figured out the system that I can't get my life together because of the system. It's a system, right? So maybe if we crush the system, if we actually demolish the system, we destroy the system, then we can build up from the ashes. That's really the agenda. A lot of these people, they want to destroy the current system, so then out of the ashes, then they can actually they can start over. And the reality is, if you can't make it within the opportunities that you have right now, what makes you think you're gonna be able to make it when we have an apocalyptic world? How the hell you think you're gonna make it when everything crumbles? When you no longer have any internet, you no longer have your iPhone to get online to talk shit. You no longer have any of these resources you have available to you that actually you can log on to YouTube and they teach you how to make your own budget. They can teach you how to create or have a new skill set, so then therefore you can improve your life. They can, they can teach you all these things, but because you are such in despair in your personal life, you feel like the reason why you are where you are today is because of the system, and then now you are using other people's causes, and you are using causes in order to hide from fixing your own life, right? That's why you hide behind black people by saying that, well, the world is messed up, I'm fighting for black people. No, you're not. You just want to fit in because you 30 years old right now with a nose ring, and then you're working at a barista with no other skills, and that college art degree is not helping you with all these student loans. So then therefore you don't want to admit that your lack of effort and your bad choices get you where you are right now. So then therefore you try to get behind black causes. As a white cis privileged man, I have to fight for black people. You don't give a fuck about black people. You look down upon black people, and anyone that actually disagree with you. If a black person disagreed with you, all of a sudden you became racist towards that black person. You don't care about black people, right? Same thing with like gay rights. If you really believe in gay rights, so then why you keep people who are gay, like say kids that are grown up that was supposed to be gay, right? You then now try to get them to cut off their members. You don't care about gay people because otherwise you're decreasing the gay population, right? You don't care about trans, right? Because otherwise, why would you try to actually you try to create this propaganda and all that stuff, right? Try to get people that are somewhat in the artistic, spectrum. Hold on a second. You don't sound like a black American. I hear the accent. Well, no, I'm not a black American. I'm Haitian, right? But I've been here since I was 13 years old. So I've been grew up, and that's the thing, right? And that's where my perspective comes from when it comes to this whole black agenda, right? Like, I know so many hardworking black American black individuals that don't have the guilty mindset. That don't have the victimhood mindset, right? And then from coming from someone from a third world country, and to be able to see these opportunities, that can actually get you to a place where a place where you okay. It's very difficult for me to to just be a victim, right? Or just be like, oh, racism and sexism. Not saying that it doesn't exist. Not saying that it didn't play a role in how the society is shaped, right? But I also see the way out of it. Here in America, what do you really need to get out of poverty, right? Basically 5 things, right? Don't commit crime, have a GED, have a skill set, don't have a whole bunch of kids out of wedlock, and then have a good support system. 5 things, right? Dude, we all have sometimes hit rock bottom, right? We all at some point, have bad luck in life, right? Dude, when I'm going through my shit, I can depend on my family, I can depend on some friends. I have good people around me. I don't burn bridges. I try to be a decent human being. I try not to fuck people over. And guess what? When I actually need people in my life, they show up, man. Dude, the past year, right? I went through something. I went through it all, right? I was depressed. I went through some shit. But guess what? My sister was there for me. My best friend was there for me. My cousin was there for me. Yo, these were my support system, man. And dude, and guess what? They don't have the same political views than I do. We talk about politics all the time. We disagree on certain things. We agree on certain things. But I'm not gonna cut off my family for Donald Trump. I'm not gonna cut off my family for no political agenda. I'm not gonna cut off these people. I care about them. Why the hell would I cut them off over some politicians? Right? But guess what? You have people on you have like leftists that try to encourage you to cut off family members because they disagree with you. It's like, bro, like these people don't care about you. They don't. So why on earth would I actually encourage people to cut off their family because like they disagree with you politically or they disagree with you like culturally, right? And that's the mindset. And I'm looking at the way people actually like, doing. It's like, yo, it's not the right way to go. You are destroying your lives and then hide behind causes to make excuses for why you are in the situation that you're in right now, right? Yeah, it's like my whole point is a lot of the thing that we're seeing today, right? Okay, we go through life, a lot of the pain that we have, I would say about 50% of it is self-inflicted. And the other 50% of it is like circumstances of family, right? You have like the bad choices of your parents. Let's say that, if you're a guy, right? Let's say you're a dude, you're just slinging your left and right. You get some women pregnant, you get the wrong women pregnant, right? Or you are irresponsible person, so that now this kid's gonna suffer. This kid's gonna have to grow up with a toxic mom, a deadbeat dad. So then he's gonna have his harder life. He's gonna have his life a lot harder to actually like the sense of the parents, right? His life gonna be a lot harder to get out of his situation because of his parents' bad choices, right? So then now he have two choices now. He can either remain a victim, claiming that it's the system, is the fault of the system why he's in the way that he is, or he can recognize the situation, be like, okay, my parents made some bad choices, but now it's up to me to get out of the situation. It's up to me not to repeat their mistakes. It's up to me to actually now put myself in a better situation and get out of this thing, right? Our culture is riddled with bad choices. We celebrate bad choices. We continue to actually make excuses for bad choices. And then we're wondering why the fuck we are in so many bad choices, right? At some point, at which point are we going to take certain level of accountability for our choices? And the people who actually say that, they either get called coon, they get called sold out, they get called a whole bunch of names. Okay, the name calling, it all depends on who you are. If you're an immigrant, like myself, the criticism towards me will be like, Haiti's trash. Why don't you go fix Haiti before you talk about the issue that's going on with Black America? Right? That's going to be my criticism, right? Because I'm Haitian. But let's say if I wasn't Haitian. Let's say if I was American. Let's say if I was a Black American. Then the excuses would be, oh, you a coon, you a sellout. These white people would never accept you, man. Right? That would be the excuse, right? But let's say if I wasn't, African American, no, I was Haitian, I was just white. Let's say I was a guy like Charlie Kirk, right? Then I would be racist for pointing out the obvious. And that's the game that they play. It has nothing to do with whether you're racist or not. It has to do with how dare you criticize me. You don't want people to criticize you, but you want people to constantly open up their wallet for you. You constantly want people to sympathize with you. You constantly want people to actually value bad choices. And that's the thing though, this can't keep happening, right? And the thing about these people that quote unquote sympathize with you, these people look down upon you. These white liberals don't care about Black people. What they do, they see Black people as a prop, right? They see Black causes as a prop for all the other bullshit that they're trying to pass in government, right? Let's say they want to they want to pass laws that don't you don't need your ID to vote. So then therefore it makes it easier to rig elections. What do? They hide behind Black people. Oh, Black people, no, not all Black people are privileged to have ID. They don't know how to have ID, how to register to vote. So then if you are against this, then that means you're racist. Hiding behind Black people. Let's say they want to pass laws about climate change, right? To, you know, stifling small businesses. What do? They're like, well, you know, climate change affect black people more than white people. So if you know, you are against these climate change policies, that means you're racist. Again, they're hiding behind black people. Now, if you want to push this whole transgender agenda, what do? Also hide behind black people, hide behind gay people. These people don't care about you. They don't. They don't care about you. All they're doing is they're trying to use you as a prop to hide behind, to actually continue to push false agenda. At the end of the day, they don't give a fuck. Right? All they end up doing is they continue to prop up. They're using people with mental illnesses, like the guy who actually, you know, pew Charlie Kirk, like the guy who recently, like, you know, shot a ICE facility, end up killing, you know, an immigrant detainee, and then a couple of other detainees and stuff like that got wounded. Right? They're using these people as props in order to push their agenda. Now, what they're gonna get out of it? If you know, you're gonna use this guy as a way to push gun control. Like, well, see, it's because he had access to guns. That's why he was able to actually, you know, use this as a violent to actually, you know, pew people. That's what they're gonna do. They're using disasters in order to push their agenda. It doesn't matter to them. Right? It doesn't matter to them. They're just looking for the next, let's say, school shooting to claim, like, well, see, it's, you know, we need more gun control. It's like, you know, you want to take away someone's right, to be able to defend themselves, because, well, you know, criminals are so good at following the law, right? And it's like, their solution doesn't make sense. And the more you realize that their solution has nothing to do with solving the problem, but everything to do with power and control, then the more you realize that these people don't care about you, because their main agenda is not to actually be for you to be self-sufficient. Their main agenda is to destroy the current system that we have today, because it's a globalistic agenda. In the globalistic agenda, what they're more afraid of is a population that they cannot control. What they're more afraid of is a population that actually know their right and that will be able to stand up to them. That will be able to be like, no, look at how they actually did during COVID when in Australia, and all these people who actually don't have weapon. Australia actually had camps. Australia was locking people up if you refuse to take the vaccine. Australia, and, you know, you had like the UK, they were locking people up, right? You know, if you didn't stay at your house, oh no, we can't have that. Dude, can you imagine, right? In America, you had let's say the population, you know, wasn't armed and all that stuff, right? And then you have like you know, the thing that was going on in the UK, let's say the child grape, the grooming grape stuff that was happening with the Eastern community, with the Middle Eastern community. Like, yo, the parents couldn't do nothing about it. The freaking the police turned a blind eye. Yo, it's like, can you imagine you're in a position you cannot even defend your family? Like, you know who's doing these actions. You cannot even go over there to that house and rescue your daughter. What kind of world is that? Oh no, but these UK people, you know, these Brits, they're so proud. Sometimes they look down at the American, right? They say things like, oh, this bloody American, look at them. Look at how they are so uncivilized. They have gun. You know, how dare they? How dare they have a weapon? It's like they look down on American civilian for having the right to protect themselves. Meanwhile, they don't even have the right to protect themselves. Yo, dude, they're getting arrested over things that they say online. Bro, like, they are in no position. They are in no position to talk about, like, you know, freedom of speech, because you can't, like, dude, you have people being arrested for praying across the street from a clinic. Because, no, you are disturbing the peace. You're not allowed to pray in public. Like, what kind of world is that? Meanwhile, a Muslim, right? I don't have anything against Muslim, right? But I'm just showing out the double standard. As a Christian, right, you are not allowed to pray in public, right? You're not allowed to silently pray in public in the UK. You are being persecuted for actually like speaking out, for. And the funny thing about the whole Charlie Kirk incident, right? I'm not a religious person, but I can see the persecution that's been happening, right? I can see the persecution that started to happen against Christians, against Christian values, right? And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is crazy. Because you are allowed to be anything else. But as soon as you're talking about God, as soon as you're talking about the Bible, as soon as you're talking about like, you preaching, you're talking about like, things that, you are being proud of your value system, you're proud of your Christian faith, all of a sudden, dude, they have a problem with you. And I'm like, yo, this is persecution. Now it's no longer covert, it's now being overt. And it's like, and I'm looking at it like, and these people, it becomes clear and day that it's right versus wrong. It's right versus wrong, and they're trying so hard to make sure that you are not in a position to defend yourself. But anyway, this is where I stop. Thank you guys for coming through. I appreciate it. Oh, wow. This is the first time I had so many people on my live stream. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet to this channel, this is a very small channel, and I would really appreciate it if you actually, hit the like button, subscribe, to make sure that to make sure that the algorithm gets played, get boosted up and everything like that. And thank you for everything. So I'm your host, The Haitian. So share, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm out of here, guys. Peace.